Odyssey now has hundreds of new exclusive music stations for you to discover your new summer soundtrack.
Get moving with worthy workouts for a cardio sesh fueled by today's top artists.
Hanging with your crew? Throw it back with Picnic Party for old school jams for your cookout.
Or sail away with Odyssey's new yacht rock station, Jugger Yacht.
There are hundreds of new exclusive stations to check out today.
For summer barbecues,
road trips,
or relaxing poolside.
For every mood, every interest, every passion. By Odyssey. Brought to you in part by Macy's and Geico.
All right, we got him now. Let's head out to the North Olmsted Chrysler Jeep Dodge Ram hotline. I'm guessing Lima is just elated right now. Lima is joining us, of course, the Ken Carman Show with Anthony Lima, bright and early tomorrow morning at 6. Now, Lima, not only did the Cleveland Cavaliers say, Lima, we know that you know hoops, but we're going to go with Mobley, but then Toronto. Everybody thought Toronto would take Suggs, and they go with Scotty Barnes. So what do you think right now, buddy?
Well, obviously, if you believed everybody who was putting out the projections, and the guys that do this for a living, and the people they were canvassing over when it came to the NBA front office guys, it seemed like Mobley had surged really over the last month. I mean, for the longest time, we had heard this was a 5-person draft. Kuminga obviously dropped out of that. He had workouts that I don't think necessarily helped him in some of the interviews that he did. And so we got to the point where everybody thought it was a 4-person draft. And then out of nowhere, you did hear some Barnes stuff in the lead up to the draft. And now you see what happened. Mobley goes 3 and no real big surprise. I mean, I can make as much of a case as I can and say it 100 times over why I wouldn't have taken Mobley, even though I think he's going to be really good. But for Toronto, who has done a great job drafting over the years, but have never been picking this high since 2011 when they took Valanciunas, it is a bit of a surprise, but I guess you could never count them out of taking a shot, and they certainly did that. So Suggs is falling, and we'll end up seeing where he goes.
All right, so Lima, is it fair to say, I mean, we know you like Jalen Suggs, but is it fair to say that you still like Evan Mobley? Like, you don't.
Yeah.
I mean, you think he's going to be a great player. You realize the upside. Put it this way, what are your concerns with Evan Mobley?
Yeah, well, Chico, the concerns are that, I see the Cavs as a team with a problematic core. I'm not enthralled with their core. When Bobby Marks put out his top futures list, he had the Cavs number 30. He thought they had the worst future. And a lot of people outside of Cleveland hold that belief that they have one of the worst cores. And you add the Kevin Love contract to that, and the fact that you're going to have to pay Colin Sexton if you end up using him. And Colin's been a very solid player. He has actually surprised me and has gotten really good. But there obviously are the questions while we talk about Evan Mobley and his ceiling and how it compares to everybody else. The Colin Sexton ceiling, I don't think a lot of people are buying that he's going to get a ton better over the rest of his career. There's just only so much you can do with his size and frame. And he's got a great work ethic, and he's gotten a little better every year. But the core is problematic. So the question was, were they going to pivot off that core? And putting Mobley on this team right now, if they don't do anything with Sexton, you will have a team that, again, offensively is way behind the times over the next few years, unless Mobley really does expand that range. And he didn't show big signs of it in college. He only took 1 3-pointer a game in college, and that's the college range. I mean, those are layups for a lot of the big men today. And you see kids in high school, big men in high school, taking college threes from NBA range. I watch it here in Northeast Ohio. So Mobley can add it. I like his form. Shot it well from the free throw line. And obviously he's going to have to gain a ton of weight. I don't hold that against him. A lot of these guys come out 6'11", 7 feet. I talked about Jonathan Isaac this week and, Marvin Bagley Jr. and a bunch of guys that were called, big time, versatile players. I hear the term unicorn more than any other term over the last week. And I don't know if I think guys like the Greek Freak are unicorns. I don't know if I'm putting Evan Mobley there. He still has a lot of work to do, but the good news is he's young, and the Cavs have shown some ability to develop guys. So I'm excited about that. His passing is incredible for a guy his size. He puts it on the deck. I'd like to see him be a little more aggressive. That's the rap on him, is he's not the most aggressive guy in the world and certainly not a vocal leader. Even he said that I watched program NBA TV tonight. He's like, I like to lead by example. Well, the Cavs do need some vocal leaders. They don't have any. And Jalen Suggs would have been that guy. He would have, day one, been an alpha. That's the type of guy he is. Obviously, people know Jalen Suggs was recruited by all the top programs in the country to be quarterback. He's got that football mentality, and not in the way that Charlie Ward couldn't play basketball, or could play basketball, but not a ceiling there. Jalen Suggs obviously has a big-time ceiling. But I'm happy that the Cavs got in the top three. That is huge for them. They did not get a lot of lotto luck. And Mobley, I think, is going to be good. I do think he's going to be good. He just wouldn't have been my pick. A guy that's not going to have the ball in his hands that much.
So it's interesting. We're talking to Anthony Lima, of course, one half of the Ken Carman Show with Anthony Lima. You'll hear them bright and early tomorrow morning at 6, breaking this all down. Cavaliers at 3, selecting Evan Mobley, the 7-footer out of USC, as expected. The curveball here was Scotty Barnes at 4, going to Toronto. The small forward out of Florida State, Jalen Suggs, just went to the Orlando Magic there at 5. When you, and I understand the pieces that you're talking about, or the core, in terms of not being, because I'm not overly excited, but is it fair to say, like, Darius Garland or Jared Allen, like, those guys are huge disappointments? I mean, you can say that the jury's still out.
Chico, I was a big proponent of drafting Garland, despite the fact he played so few games. But the issue is the Cavs have this smallish backcourt. They get torched by even mediocre backcourts on a nightly basis. Their backcourt, which is supposed to be an advantage, has actually been a disadvantage on most nights. And I just think the two of them playing so many minutes together has actually kept Garland, kind of hindered Garland's progress. Garland needs the ball in his hands. I know people are thinking, well, wait a second, then why would you want Jalen Suggs? Well, I think the two of them would complement each other. They're both so unselfish. And the fact that I think Jalen Suggs, great defender, will be an elite-level defender and be able to guard multiple positions, guards and wings, I think he complements Suggs, where Sexton just doesn't do that. So it's been problematic having Garland and Sexton, despite Sexton being able to average 24 a game. It really takes the ball out of Garland's hands, where he is a very good decision-maker. So that would be my issue. That would be my issue. And as far as Allen, I really liked Allen when he was on the Nets. And then I saw him on a nightly basis, and I said, all right, young kid, I don't know if he's ever going to develop a real offensive game. And so I wonder what this team's going to look like the next few years, having two big men who really don't shoot the three-pointer, along with Colin Sexton, doesn't shoot the three, and Okoro, who I thought he really showed some things the last month of the year, but there's some big-time questions about where he fits in the NBA and what his development is going to be. I saw he looks yoked, so he's adding some muscle. I love the way he gets out and defends. But where is the scoring? I mean, I said it on Bull and Fox today. 9 teams in the NBA this year would have set historic NBA marks on offense if this were 5 years ago. So every team is scoring. Every player is scoring more, and the Cavs are still one of the worst offenses in the league, and that's with this exciting young backcourt, which I just don't think a lot of other teams would really take.
Yeah, and I understand that. I've got to believe, and I know you're talking as though Colin Sexton will remain, and right now he is. But even if we get through draft night tonight and he's still a member of the Cavaliers, they could obviously still move him. I think they will, and I think that doesn't that kind of just open it up for the offense to be much better with Colin gone? And again, we know he can score. We know he's Vinnie Johnson and whatever, he can put up points, but that offense needs to be fluid, needs to get, and I feel like there's pieces there that can do that. Darius Garland being one of them. I didn't ask you yet about the Rubio swap, and not that he's end all be all, but don't you think just the offense without Colin Sexton, hypothetically they move him, don't you think it automatically makes them a better offense?
Well, look, I've been called a Colin Sexton hater, and I got to give him credit because he has gotten so good to the point where he's going to make a lot of money in this league. He's going to play a long time, and I think there are teams, I think he could have helped the Lakers this year as opposed to Dennis Schroeder. I think Colin actually is so quick, can get to the basket, and actually got to the foul line. But I don't think he's a winning player on this type of team right now. Doesn't mean he can't continue to get better. I don't know how much better he can get because, as I said, he just doesn't have great vision, doesn't see the floor, not a great decision maker, and unfortunately, he has a tough time getting a shot off. I think he led the league, all guards and wings, getting a shot blocked again this year, but I love that he attacks the basket. So I do think that if you were to get the ball out of his hands and let some other guys possibly develop. You know, the other thing, Chico, that I think has been a big problem for the Cavs, and I've said this, that Kobe has shown the ability to draft at the positions they've been in. They have been unlucky with their draft spots, and there's been some development. The issue is the teams in the Cavs situation where they lose a superstar, they get a ton of swings at the draft, and they get those late first-rounders, second-rounders. We know Dan Gilbert will buy a pick here and there. They'll get all those opportunities at the dartboard, and then they'll have more talent on their team. We've seen that with the Atlanta Hawks. Obviously, you know what Oklahoma City is attempting to pull off. The Cavs only had 4 players since LeBron left. That's just not enough for a team that lost a superstar. They should have had 7 or 8 players and gotten creative. I would have thought about trading Larry Nance Jr. To get another draft pick. And I love Larry Nance Jr., and he can help a championship team. But I don't think he's going to help this team. So why wouldn't you entertain that to get more stabs to try to find out?
They might still do that. I mean, they might still do that before this night's out, right?
You know what, Chico? Absolutely. What I'm curious about, and I'd like to get your thoughts, according to Shams, and he's on this stuff, so if he said it, I don't think he's lying. The Cavs were on the phone with the Toronto Raptors, and they were entertaining the fact that the Raptors clearly wanted Mobley, and when they couldn't get Mobley, they said, all right, we'll take a shot. We don't love Suggs. We're going to take a shot and get Barnes. What would have coaxed the Cavs out of getting rid of that pick? What kind of pivot would they have been willing to make? I'm curious. I would have loved to know what they would have wanted out of the Raptors. I don't think the Raptors would have traded Siakam. And that would have been interesting because, you know, Siakam obviously owed a lot of money, had a huge setback season, but we all know how talented he is.
All right, they're telling me we got to go to break. Before we do, real quick, we've got obviously the Rubio swap with the Timberwolves. Real quick, your thoughts on that?
But they needed a backup point guard. Unfortunately, the Dellavedova thing just didn't work out with the concussion. And I know you got to go. Rubio, we watched him this morning, live, going up against Argentina. He played great. He's been a terrible shooter. His game has obviously dropped off, plays no defense, and it's not going to help space the floor. What he will do is hopefully mentor. I always say let's watch out for that. We think everyone's going to be a mentor when they're veterans, and then we find out years later a lot of the veterans have no interest in doing that. And he's a willing passer, so he's gonna take a bunch of those bench minutes, and I think he can play with either Colin Sexton or Darius Garland.
Lima, great stuff, buddy. Looking forward to you and Ken tomorrow morning at 6. Appreciate you checking in.
All right, sound good, Chico. Been listening. Thanks, man.
All right, that is Anthony Lima, the North Olmsted Chrysler Jeep Dodge Ram Hotline.
Odyssey now has hundreds of new exclusive music stations for you to discover your new summer soundtrack.
Get moving with worthy workouts for a cardio sesh fueled by today's top artists.
Hanging with your crew? Throw it back with Picnic Party for old school jams for your cookout.
Or sail away with Odyssey's new yacht rock station, Jugger Yacht.
There are hundreds of new exclusive stations to check out today.
For summer barbecues,
road trips,
or relaxing poolside.
For every mood, every interest, every passion. By Odyssey. Brought to you in part by Macy's and Geico.